Hi, I'm Peter Rose, founder of Longwood Currency Trading. I wanted to discuss today the correct Forex educational process for success. Education is at the root of everything that we do, and there is a process for that education regardless of the topic under consideration. So if you don't understand the educational process, and it's not sufficient that you simply went through it, you probably don't have an understanding of the process that you went through, only the information that you got. Because there are poor educators, as there are people that don't know what they're doing in almost everything in life, right? So, what are you going to do? But if you're aware of the educational process, you've got a heads up on that. So what I want to do in this video is to break it into two parts. One is to discuss a good educational process for driving a car for the first time, what you need to do. And then I'm going to map that into what you would need to do correspondingly for doing the same process for trading. So those two things, we're going to talk about a car and then we're going to talk about trading. For those of you that only want the magic secret sauce, the educational process has to be simple, organized, sequential, and iterative. I'll even put up a graphic for you so that you can see that. A good educational process is simple, organized, sequential, and iterative. And that's the thing that we want to get involved in discussing driving a car, trading currencies, playing a guitar, learning how to ski, learning how to be an architect. It's all the same. And so let's press on and take a look at this in depth. What is the absolute simplest process to go about when you're driving a car as far as terminology goes? Well, what would you want as the instructor? What would you want to have that person do in learning to drive the car? The simplest thing. Well, they've got to know what a key is and the ignition, how to turn the car on, right? They're going to need to know how to put it in gear, how to press the gas pedal to make it go forward, and then how to press the brake pedal. So there's four things. So in order to get somebody started, they only really need to know four terms. That's the simple process of that. Organizing those terms is, well, you got to turn the car on, you got to put it in gear, step on the gas pedal, and step on the brake. So those things that I indicated just made sense to you. But how many people are going to teach that? They're going to teach you, well, we got to put the gas in the car first before you can drive it. Well, yeah, but that just complicates things. So you have simple terms that you define. You put them in an organized manner. They're organized because they deal with just that process. I mean, you could say that I'm organizing the terms into, I'm going to talk about the brake pedal, I'm going to talk about the ignition, and I'm going to talk about that. That's organized. You've organized the information, brought it down, simplified it, and brought it down into context. But now you need to put it into sequential order. Remember, it's got to be simple, it's got to be organized, it's got to be sequential. So that's why you would teach the person about the ignition first, putting it into gear second, pressing the gas pedal first or third, and then stepping on the brake. So simple, organized, and sequential. What about iterative? Iterative simply means that once you get into the car and you start it, that's your first step. Now, when you go to put the car into gear, you need to make sure that once the car is in gear, that the car is started. You need to check that. I mean, how many times have we started a car and gone about, and then for some reason the ignition didn't catch or whatever, it just died. So you have it in gear, you need to check that the car is started. Okay, it's started. So now what's the next thing after you have it in gear? We're going to press on the gas pedal. So you push on the gas pedal, but you want to be sure that before you push on that gas pedal, that you've put the car into the correct gear. And then you're all set in that sequence. So you've iterated back. Each time you have a new step in the process, you iterate back over the last one to make sure that the communication between those two steps is logical, that the steps are logically oriented. So it's simple, organized, sequential, and iterative. All right. Well, what about trading? Let me throw the graphic back up again. So we see that we're going to have to look at trading in simple, organized, sequential, and iterative process. That is a process. Like the car example, trading has, as you know, book-length glossaries of terms, all kinds of terms. Limit orders, trailing stops, fundamental analysis, consumer price index, housing starts, Fibonacci's, trend lines, 5-minute chart versus a 4-hour chart. I mean, all those are terms. But if you're going to sit down and just start trading, what would you need to do? What terms would you need to have? Well, you'd need terms like the FOREX market. You got to know that you're trading the FOREX market, right? And you got to know something about price, and on and on. In my coursework, I have 6 major terms that I discuss. And each one of those terms has 3 to 5 subterms to it. Like price, you can talk about bid ask, you could talk about order flow, you could talk about different things that have to do with price, that the person would need to know what price was in context to the market. But you notice when I gave the example, what I've done is I've organized the market itself into these 6 terms. I've simplified everything. I pulled out the core things that the person is going to need in order to get started. And I've organized them as a separate unit of learning. So I've pulled down some key core terms to get this person started. Then I've got another set of key core terms that will take the person to the next step. In the driving example, the first step was to step on, one of the first steps was to step on the accelerator. Well, what does stepping on the accelerator imply? That the car has gas and then it moves forward. So my second set of terms would have to do with gas, where you fill the gas tank and that sort of thing. So in trading, I've got these 6 core terms that I've organized. Now I put them into sequential order. And when I gave the example, I said, I talk about the FOREX market and then I talk about price. Would it make any sense to talk about price first and then the FOREX market? Well, no, probably not. And so those 6 terms are therefore sequential in nature. If when I start the person out trading, I say, okay, here's your trading platform, and we assume that they know how to do a trading platform. Just like in driving a car, you assume the person knows that they've got to open the car door to get in because they've seen that. That's just basic life experience. And we have that same kind of thing, basic life experience, such that there's stuff that you don't have to cover in a beginner course, or even you wouldn't even have to think about it. And so the FOREX market needs to be described first. The assumption is that you've got all the surrounding information about how to use a computer and that you've got a trading platform. You don't know what to do with that yet, but now you're defining the terms for that. So those terms are organized and they are sequential. FOREX market first. I'm going to talk a little bit about price and down the line through those 6 major topics. And then within each of those topics, again, are subtopics. And each one of those subtopics, and those subtopics are organized under that main key node term. And in turn, those subtopics have to be in sequential order. So the next step would be iterative. Okay, so I'm gonna be talking about, let's say I've talked about the Forex market, and now I go and I talk about price. But as I'm talking about price, I have to constantly refer back to the Forex market to make sure that everything that I've discussed in the Forex market prepares the person to deal with actual price within that market. I'm iterating back from price into the Forex market. When I go to the next step after price, I have to iterate back into the price topic to make sure I have sufficiently prepared in there in order to prepare the person to discuss that next topic. It's all of that is simple. That makes it simple. It's simple. The whole process is simple, but making the components of that process is first step is to be simple. So I'm iterating even in the teaching process of presenting the structure of the plan, the training plan. You know, I've been in martial arts for over 55 years now. I've taught karate 1,000 people anyway. And that's very fear. People come in fearful. They're concerned about their safety in the street. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to teach them up block and all that other kind of, no. I mean, somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to grab you. So the first thing I'm going to, how do you deal with that? How do you stand to prevent that grab? What do you do? What's the simple things that you go through? And then we peel the onion back. We add some material to it. We go on. We say this is a kick. And so you push the person back and then you do this kick, which is really strong, instead of trying to reach for the person and punch. So you go through these organized, simple, sequential steps, constantly making sure that me as the educator are providing an environment in each step that as we go through each step, I can iterate back over that previous step. So we talked about cars, we talked about currency trading, we just talked about teaching karate and self-defense, everything. Because this is not about currency trading. This is about the educational process of everything. And as a martial arts instructor, I understand that of over 50 years of experience of presenting that. I was a software engineer for 33 years. I understand how to organize material and present it. And in fact, in the object-oriented world of building complex applications, computer applications, programming computer applications, it's got to be simple. It's got to be organized. The steps have to be in sequential order, and they have to be iterative. You have to constantly go back. That's part of the, well, we would call that just further development, iterating back. But really in trading, it's risk management. That iterative process is part of the risk management of the trading process itself. What I did in looking at the complex problems that I've solved in the past through martial arts or through my 33 years as a software engineer and the other things that I've shared with people on how to do things, teaching them. What were those? What were the key things that I was able to break out of each thing so that I could simplify it? So I looked at the currency market and I said, look, trading is the objective. What are you trying to do when you trade? You place an order and you get out and you make money. That's great. What do you do in between those things? Well, you got to do something to manage that trade because you might want to get out early or you might want to not get out at a profit target. You might want to go in further. So in the software engineering field, there's something called the software development lifecycle, the SDLC. That is a process of making things simple, organized, sequential, and iterative, but it's a complex process for solving very complex computer application development tasks. So I took that map and I did a rip on that and created what I call the life cycle of a currency position. That's what we're dealing with as a currency position. You enter a trade and you create a position. Trade is something that you do. A position is something that you have. And so the life cycle of a currency position deals with entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. Couldn't get any easier than that. But that's the framework that I set out. And within the entry analysis, I have a rule, one rule for entry analysis, and it has 4 conditions. Each condition is simple, it's organized, it's sequential, and I can iterate back through each condition because each succeeding condition depends on the previous condition, whether I enter the trade or not. And the steps of entry analysis got to come first before you have a position to manage or before you got something to get out of. So it's entry analysis, position management, and exit methodology. It's sequential and it's easy to iterate back. So that's the kind of educational process you need to have in order to be successful and beat the odds that are against you, which is 90% of you will lose 90% of your money in 90 days when you get into trading. And those of you that are already in trading, you're either marginally successful or you're losing money and you've got the money, so you refund the account. Maybe you're trading 3 minis or something, so you refund the account and you trade again. You get a little bit ahead and you lose that and you're back to break even and you trade a little bit. And so you're not having the consistent growth that you need to have. So you need somebody who has the ability to break this process down into some very simple component pieces so that they can identify for you, look, this is the component piece where you're having a problem. These are the conditions that you need to satisfy in order to be successful in this component area. This is the condition I think that you're having problems with. Let's look at that. So it's very easy for me to help somebody because it's organized. They don't have to be organized. They don't have to have any knowledge of this stuff. It's my job as a mentor to be able to guide them through the process. And in that process, to educate them on the educational process so that when they get jammed up, they don't need me to help them hold their hand while they solve their little problem. They can go back and go, oh, okay, how did I get to this point? Somewhere between where I started and where I'm at, there's a problem. So what are the component pieces that brought me to this place? So which one of those component pieces is dead? When you have lights that you're hanging outside and one of those bulbs goes dead, it knocks out the whole string in the old type of lights, right? I think you probably are familiar with that. So you got to go through each bulb from the beginning where the power is, and you got to test it to see if that's the bad bulb. That just makes sense. But that's organized. You've got a plan. What are you going to do? Take the whole string and start at the end of it and work your way backwards? I don't know. In order to have a sound educational process presented to you, and in order for you to be able to grasp the significance of that educational process, it's important that the educational process is simple, it's organized, it's sequential, and it's iterative. Peter Rose, Longwood Currency Trading. Have a great day and have a great trading day.